There was one point in my life where I did not want to get married.
What you want in a relationship is someone who will be convicted by the Holy Spirit.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Taylor.
What's up, it's Aspen.
And welcome to the Flow Podcast.
And whether it's career, relationship, self-development, our goal is to help inspire you to flow in every single area of your life.
And our deepest intention is to help you tap into your God-given purpose, talents, and capabilities. Now let's get into the episode. But first, we're going to do a live and preview card. I'll be right back.
Not prepared. Which one are you choosing? Evolve or repeat?
Today's deep thought says, can God teach the same lessons over and over again? The real question is, do you want to go through the same lessons over and over again? Most people will say no, but we are still making the same mistakes. We are still disobeying and lacking in obedience.
Daily prompt says today, write down a lesson you've had to learn more than once. What could you have done differently? Be specific.
That's so good.
It's timely for this episode.
It's very timely, I tell you. So, of course, you guys know we're engaged. Oh, okay, but like seriously, on the last video that we put up, need more Celsius. You guys had some questions, so we're going to answer that here. We're not perfect.
Far from it.
We are not perfect. I just want to say that because I'm just like, these answers are so perfect, but it's just a truth. It's from the word, and that's just what our experience is. And this is the first time that we've got it right when it comes to like dating. Yeah. And the only reason why we were able to get it right was because we sought the Lord first separately. Yeah. We had our own individual period of solely seeking the Lord. I remember I just came off a fast before me and Aspen started dating for real. So like it takes time, but we're giving you our experience and our knowledge so you don't have to basically go through and make the same mistakes that we did. When it comes to dating, when it comes to like getting in situations that you had no business being in.
Facts.
So we want to
genuine facts.
We want to genuinely give you our experience because we know that everyone is meant to experience the type of love that we have.
Or it's possible.
It's possible, but everyone can experience that, and we just want to like essentially give y'all what's worked for us. Every situation is going to be different, but we want to give you guys like the commonality between them. All should be the foundation of God. But we're not perfect. We're just sharing our story. This is when we got it right. And it's been such a beautiful thing. So this question is from Faith and Slime. Shout out to you. So he actually came to church, our church, and it was really great meeting you. So let's get into the questions. Okay, so first is for Aspen. How did you know when you were ready? How did you know when you were financially ready and comfortable to propose / get married / engaged?
It was just a thing of knowing like, hey, I'm in a good place. Generally speaking, and like in an overall balanced way. So it's just like, like I feel like truly I've made room for what I'm asking God to bless in my life. So if I'm being honest, it wasn't in the forefront of my thoughts. And this is why. Because ultimately, with everything, God is my provider. As well as I'm only addressing this because I feel like based upon me hearing similar questions like this or just knowing my environment, knowing my peers, a lot of times we try to come up with excuses for things to try to be ready for something. And in reality, we haven't really fully dedicated our hearts to truly deciding on what we truly want. Because there could be reasons or situations where you're like, I really love this person. I want to do right, or I'm trying to change. But until I get my money right, until I get where I want to be in my career, you'll constantly be putting things off. In reality, you have to make a commitment. That's literally it. As humans, we're never exactly where we want to be. Best believe me. But it's a thing where I wasn't going to put off something that I dearly, truly cherish in my life. And out of fear of to say, I'm just going to wait versus just like, of course, I was wise about things. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to rely on so many external things to internally validate you to make the best decision for your life under God's covenant and provision. So I hope that makes sense.
Okay, so with that,
does that make sense to you?
No, that does make sense, but I think we should kind of like dive a little bit deeper. So specifically speaking with that, I think that there are things outside of financial preparedness that would lead you to that point. It doesn't have to necessarily be perfect, but I do think that if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of someone else. That's just, there's that generic thing. And I also feel like as you're dating, you kind of know what that person needs. Now, also, Aspen and I talked about what we paid for financially before we even got engaged. There's like in that questionnaire, we always reference this, guys. Like it's in the defining decade, the PDF questions. But we talked about what we pay for. And we also talked about like what it would look like if we lived together. Also in regards to like breaking down like what things would be financially, you know what I'm saying? Like what I have to contribute financially in regards to like bills and like stuff that I have to pay for by myself, what Aspen has to pay for by himself. So that just kind of gave like a really good idea of like what we would need to have collectively. So there's that portion, which if you're deep enough in the conversation and you're really considering marriage, like it's not an uncomfortable conversation to have. Like it's very important to make sure that you guys have that discussion. And then, and another thing too is I think it is a very big deal for someone to know what they want to do with their life. In regards to their career, like where they see themselves and stuff like that. I feel like that's really important, specifically someone who is leading to know what they want to do.
I think in a nutshell, to generally like address it, I feel like you have to be intentional about the things that you say that you want to be committed to. And that kind of falls into what you were saying. Hey, knowing what you want to do out of life, knowing where you want to be in your life, knowing where your heart is set focused, knowing where your spirit is, knowing where, just basically where you are within yourself and how you relate to others in your environment. Like, if you're just being honest with yourself to say, hey, yeah, I'm not sure about this, and you're not sure. If you know you really, truly want something, then you know you truly want it. So it's just about just being clear and affirmative in what you truly want and going after that with that same action that backs what you say you want. So
the next question says, were there certain needs that you all required from each other as individuals in your relationship to get to this level?
Unity, being,
communication,
unity. I want to use the term like-mindedness, but
I think like-mindedness,
general.
Equally yoked.
Yeah, equally yoked, for sure. Because in order to, you can't just be around anybody or want to be with somebody and you're not seeing eye to eye. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the biggest need, so to speak, is under the umbrella of what we essentially talk about on the channel is like, we need to be around someone that's going to push us towards God. And we also need to be around someone that's going to help us live out our dreams individually. Yeah. There was a really good quote that this guy was saying. I forgot his name. I'll try to put it below, but I might not be able to find it. Anyways, he was essentially saying the one thing that he told his wife before they got married is that I will be committed to you. I'll give you everything that you want. He was saying all these things. And he was saying that one thing that I cannot do is stop my dreams when we're together. And I feel like that's really important. And also things that I've seen personally in marriages, from like an outsider standpoint. Obviously we don't know the depths of it, but it is very important for you to not be able to it's very important for you to be able to pursue your dream within that relationship, especially when you have kids and stuff like that, because that pursuit is something that God has placed in your heart, and you can kind of feel lost in feeling like you're basically putting yourself on the back burner, and that's not healthy for anybody. So that's something that we both needed. Like Aspen needs to be able to do what he is called to do, and I need to be able to do what I'm called to do. And it just so happens that we both don't have like typical careers. Like they're both creative, so it is a little bit different because we're literally just having this conversation. Like sometimes when you live a creative lifestyle, it's very much so entrepreneurship, to be honest, because
you got a lot of highs, you have a lot of lows, you have a lot of the unknown moments, but it's like having somebody to kind of understand that. And it's funny, you mentioned that guy's video. I saw that too before you saw that, and I saw it again. But I understood exactly what he meant, but I didn't like his delivery. Why? Because it's just a thing where it's just like, it's good to vocalize, where you stand and your expectations, but it was just a way of, well, this is what you're not going to do. I'll do this. I'll be faithful. Those are things that you should do. But I believe that's the key component when God said, I will give you a helpmate suitable for you. And that suitability, it's like, hey, I can help push you towards where you need to be, where God is taking you, and you can help push me towards where God is taking me. And that doesn't even have to be a discussion because we understand each other. We've been graced to have that yokeness of like, hey, we can help each other, but you know what I'm saying? I just didn't like his attitude, but I did understand his message, but it was very arrogant.
His name is Grant Cardone. That's his name.
Yeah.
I personally didn't have an issue with it because
I didn't either, but it was just a thing like,
I didn't feel no type of way about his
I'll be this, but I'm just like,
I didn't have no type of way about it. I feel like he probably said that because he's been through an experience where
no judgment,
he had to probably choose between the person he was dating and his career. And it's not fair to make the person that you love choose between those things when they both should be able to make you happy. Aspen and I, that was kind of like an understood thing because we're both just in that same lane. But I do think that type of conversation needs to be had in regards to like revealing what your end goal and what your end purpose is, because I personally have seen a marriage end from someone pursuing their dream. And to be honest, if God has placed a dream inside of you, it's your duty to fulfill that. To be honest, of course, honor your marriage, but it just wasn't talked about. And what happens like when you have a dream that comes up when you have already been married and then you pursue that. So I do think that like it is important for both of you guys to have the conversation of like, okay, cool, like if God calls me to do something, will you be by my side? I think that's the better way to say that.
Exactly.
I need you to do this, that, and third. But that was something that was really important for us.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
There's other needs too, like a lot of it has to do with like motivating each other. A lot of it has to, like, for example, like eating healthy, going to the gym together, pursuing, we talked about our goals, having peace. Peace is very important. Also having certain standards of doing things, like just basically operating in excellence when it comes to even small tasks. That's really important. Having like he said, unity and like family dynamics, that's important too. So those are a couple of things. We would probably I would suggest, if you're not sure, just write down like a list of things that you can live and that you cannot live without. And also the Bible talks about what spouses need. Yeah. So you have that as a blueprint, and then you also have your personal preferences. What?
The blueprint.
Blueprint? Anyways. Okay, so the next one says, what advice would you all have to believers who desire a great partner and want to get married but are just afraid? Okay, so this is so funny. Let me finish the question. That want to get married but are just afraid or skeptical about getting married young. Okay, so Aspen and I are 28 and 27, okay? We're not like in our early 20s, we're in our late 20s.
But it's funny because people still look at it like
getting married young.
You know, if I cut this off from 17, basically, you know what I'm saying?
No, if I mean, I could look like a child if I wanted to. But
yeah.
We could talk about people that we do know that have gotten married young. I think,
and I also know people 40, 50s go to the club too. So
yeah, to be honest, it depends on your spiritual maturity. It does not depend on age. The reason why I say that is because people that are older than me that I've hung out with can be very spiritually immature. And then it might be people that are younger than me that are like further ahead than I am on their spiritual journey. Speaking of so I wouldn't really think about age. I would think about how mature are you in the spirit. Because when you have maturity in the spirit, it really showcases like what marriage actually means from a biblical standpoint. So funny thing is that it's not really funny. It was kind of annoying, to be honest. So like, as me and Aspen were like talking about our engagement, people were saying like, "Oh my God, you guys just got engaged!" It was people that we didn't really know that would be saying like, "Oh yeah, marriage is hard," but it was like the first thing that came out of their mouth. It wasn't like, "Oh, marriage is a beautiful thing," like it's from God. It was like, "No, marriage is hard," and it was so funny because there was this guy that just got married, and he was only married for like a year and a half, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "Yeah, marriage is hard," and I'm just like, how is it possible that you're saying that and you only been married for a year and a half? Like, y'all still in y'all's honeymoon phase, so it should be something positive that's coming out of your mouth. And it's so interesting because the people that said that looked like they had no spiritual foundation when they first got married. So we were talking to my mom about it because my parents are still married, and she was just like, honestly, it's just their perspective and their spiritual maturity, and where they were when they first got married. Because I was like, people that have a strong faith foundation didn't really say that to us. Yeah. So it's just very interesting to see like the contrasting vocalizations of what people think marriage is. But I would say get an understanding of what marriage is according to the Bible, not what the world views marriage as, because my mom was essentially saying that a lot of people go into a marriage without fully understanding what it means according to God.
Everybody has their own definition of great. Everybody, I mean, what deems us as believers are, followers of Christ, Jesus Christ, believing in Jesus. But it's just like, what does that person's beliefs, like values look like? What does great mean to them? As well as, he said, want to get married, but just are afraid or skeptical about getting married. It's just like, okay, what are you afraid of? Is it afraid of, oh, this person may cheat on me, or I'm not really ready, and will I break this person's heart, or will they break my heart? Or like, are you skeptical about, okay, I don't really know this person, or I don't really trust this person? If you ask yourself those questions and eliminate, the unknown, then it's just like, okay, I'm ready, or this ain't for me. But it's just like the questions. It's a beautiful quote. Matter of fact, I'm going to find it.
Okay, while you find that, funny thing is that there was one point in my life where I did not want to get married. I was so against marriage. The reason why was because I was just around married couples and their marriage was just crumbling around me. And as I saw that happening, I was like, this makes me never want to get married. I remember I was in the airport and I called my friend Barmel. I was like, I'm never getting married. I was like, this is just too chaotic. I was like, if this is what marriage is, I don't want any part of it. So that was a skeptical part for me. This was before I met Aspen, but it just made me not want to get married. So it had to do with my environment. It had to do with what I saw. And it also had to do with a commonality between all three of those marriages. They didn't have God as a center in the foundation of their marriage. And I don't know if that was even a thing that started out from the very beginning. So that was something that was really important for me in regards to being skeptical about marriage. But I've definitely been in that situation. But it all had to do with my environment. And the closer that I got to God, the more I realized how beautiful marriage actually is according to His word. And I also started to grow spiritually from a maturity standpoint. And I was like, man, like, okay, this is what marriage is about. I really know that it is truly a gift from God. If you're reading the word, then you know what He says about it. But I also started looking at godly couples and godly relationships and started to, I didn't really have to surround myself, because to be honest, like, I didn't have any friends at the time that were married. But I did look at, like, your pastors should be a good example for you. Even if you're following people on the internet, they should be a good example for you. And even if you're not in that phase where your friends are married, you could still have friends that you change that are seeking the Lord day in and day out. And I feel like that alone will change your perspective on a lot of things, because my mom asked us a really good question, because she's also doing our premarital counseling. So she said, how many people outside of us do you talk about God to? And I could only really name one friend. And I don't know, we couldn't really name that many people, to be honest. So that's something that we personally have to work on. So I would suggest to, like, surround yourself with people that are seeking the truth, seeking the word of God, and that will help develop and change your perspective. And it'll also just bring you to a spiritual maturity, and then it'll give you discernment about the people that you're dating. It'll give you discernment about, like, is this the right person for me? And God will truly give you provision leading up into the point where you are looking to get married.
So the quote says, have patience with everything unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Don't search for the answers which cannot be given to you now, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then, some day far in the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. So I felt like that's a beautiful thing, to feel like, okay, you know what if you are afraid, what if you're skeptical because something within you is revealing something about, for you to ask questions like, okay, am I skeptical about this or that of this person or the way they handle this, or that shows me about their behavior or their emotions, and maybe emotional maturity is important in terms of one of my needs. So maybe I need that in a person. So it's just like, live the questions, you know, because I feel like that's the best compass through God, putting that, you know, in our hearts to say, hey, like, this is something that's on my heart that I really don't know, but let me sit with it, you know.
Give an example of living the question.
Basically, like his question said, are you skeptical about getting married young? Okay. Am I skeptical? Not me, but like the person. Okay, am I skeptical about getting married young? Like, do I feel like I found the person? Do I feel like I have not found the person? Well, I don't feel like I found the person. Well, why? Well, maybe they're not consistent. Well, why are they not consistent? Because their behavior is like this one day, their behavior is like this the other day. Okay, well, can I live with that? I'm not sure. Then those are so many reasons why you should not be with that person. So you live in that question. One question out reveals to you why you shouldn't, versus just like, yeah, I'm skeptical. Mm-hmm. But why are you skeptical?
Yeah.
You know, or why are you confident? Because this person is consistent, they're loving, they're faithful, they are kind to their family. It's just, you can tell the characteristics and qualities in a person, and you can sit